Hi there, it's August the 30th and we're continuing our journey through Paul's second letter to the Corinthians, and we're in chapter 4 reading from verses 1 to 12. So we saw that Paul is continuing to defend his ministry, his apostolate before the Corinthians, some of whom seem to be criticizing what he's doing, or there seem to be questions about his motives. But he says because he has this freedom in the spirit, because he's not tied to the man-made regulations, he isn't losing heart, and he's certainly not doing things for the reason for getting gain out of it. He says they don't use tricks, they're not using tricks, they're not falsifying God's word as some of the travelling philosophers would have done. They would have played to the crowd, as it were. Paul is not playing to the crowd here. He is seeking to stand and to commit to the people the full good news of God. However, he says for some people, just like in the Old Covenant he's just referred to, there still seems to be a veil over people's hearts. They're not seeing the full glory of the good news of Jesus Christ. And he says this is because what he calls the God of this world. And it's interesting that this is the only place where the enemy, the Satan, is called the God of this world. It says the God of this world has blinded their eyes so that they can't see. And they can't tell who Messiah really is. They can't tell this fact that Messiah, Jesus, is God's image. And that's a really important word, the icon word, where we get the word icon from. That Jesus is full representation, the full image of who God is. And this is something that he's seeking to present, is that because Jesus is the image of God, he has put his own face, if you like, into Jesus. And so there's that amazing statement Paul makes here: for God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, the one who said at the beginning, let there be light, has shone in our hearts. And it is through Paul, through his ministry, that God is revealing this light of the knowledge of the glory. And that word knowledge there in Paul's understanding, in the Hebrew understanding, is not knowledge up here, but is actually experience. So God is revealing the experience of the glory, this weight of God, in the face of Jesus Christ, in the face of Jesus Messiah. And this is something that is very important to Paul, that people experience the glory of who God is. But he says the fact is that this is not something that belongs to Paul. This is a treasure that he and his fellow workers have in earthen vessels. So they are, in that sense, pots with holes in them. They're not perfect. They're not making themselves out to be perfect, but so that God's power can be seen to be God's power and not Paul's power. This is not Paul promoting himself, because Paul says we are just clay pots. We are. The light, in a sense, is shining out through the holes in us. And this is particularly the case because Paul, in his ministry, in his apostolate, has been suffering. There has been suffering involved, and he makes it clear that they have been under all kinds of pressure, been crushed, been bruised, persecuted. But in the midst of this, he says, God's power in us has not left us abandoned. It has not left us completely crushed. It has not left us so beyond reach that we cannot rejoice. And the reason he says that they are going through this death, really, is what he's saying, is so that the life of Jesus can be seen, and also so that the life can be transmitted, the light can be transmitted to those around him, so that while death is seems to be working in Paul and in his fellow workers, this results in life for those people he's speaking to. This again is really continuing that theme Paul is talking about being a sweet smelling savour, the smell of a burning sacrifice. And there's something that's being consumed in him, but as he is being consumed for the sake of the gospel, so the light of the experience of Jesus Christ, who is the image of God, is being shown through him. It's a real paradox here that Paul is saying while he's suffering, while he's going through these deprivations, it seems, the life of Jesus is pulsing out of him and being transmitted to others. May we, in the midst of whatever difficulties we face, in the midst of whatever restrictions and constrictions we face, may we be able to say with Paul, we're down but not out. We may be crushed, but we may be oppressed, but we're not crushed. We're not finally overcome. May God give us the strength to let that light shine out of the clay pots that we are. Have a very good August the 30th.